Hello, hello, hello. You are watching Rise with Carol Gockel. I'm Carol Gockel. I'm a confidence coach, author, speaker, and a change maker. Now, the show is called Rise with Carol Gockel, where I wanted to have this platform to be able to showcase to you stories of wonderful, amazing women who actually rise from the ashes. And on top of that, because I am being a confidence coach, I wanted to be able to showcase and also to share some information about the work that I do, to share with you tips, some values, and engage in open communication and as well as discussion. So today, on this episode, this is episode 14. Thank you so much for joining me online, and it is happening every Thursday on Facebook at 10 o'clock Singapore time. So, as some of you may actually know, today I am going to talk about communication. This is also something which is something that I do. What I do is I help women to own their confidence, and so that they can actually become the person that they want to become. And people always ask me, what does a confidence coach do? And to be very frank, for those who have actually seen the previous episodes, I started out as an image coach. I actually help women to actually gain more confidence through the way that they dress, to present themselves, and also through makeup as well, and then to do also color coordination. So today, quite a number of people actually ask me, how do you actually convey visually? And I always tell them it is a type of communication. So when we talk about communication, a lot of the people will be asking me, like, it's isn't it simple? I say something and then you say something back to me. So that's communication. Yes, it is, but a lot of people don't know communication can also be non-verbal. So I thought this would be an interesting topic for us to talk about today, for me to actually share something with you in terms of what I do. And of course, as per all the weekly shows, if you have a comment, please do key in onto the comments below. Then I will be able to answer your questions towards the end of the session. So today, something a little bit new. I would like to actually share some slides with you, and so that you can actually see. Because as I mentioned, communication, there's actually verbal, there's actually non-verbal communication. Verbal communication is actually what we are doing right now. I'm actually telling you something, and then you have a question, and you come back to me, and this is how we do verbal communication, right? So let me just share some things with you, which is, okay, a non-verbal communication. A non-verbal communication is actually, in fact, visual. Okay, let me share this so that you can see. Okay, perhaps you can have a look. Okay, now you see, there's this saying, you don't get a second chance at building that first impression. So I just want to let you have a few guess. How much time does it take for someone to form a first impression of you? Anyone care to guess? Okay. Well, the answer is actually a mere 2 to 3 seconds. Right? How many of us are actually very guilty? I'm super, super guilty, because a lot of the times, right, our ways of communication, to be very frank, 55% is made out of our body language, how we carry ourselves, how we actually project ourselves to the world. That is inclusive of how what we put on and on ourselves in terms of clothing, and what color we have on our face. For ladies, which is actually the makeup. And 38% comes the second, which is the voice, and then the tone, and as well as how we are actually spoken. But only what are the words that are actually spoken only takes up to 7%. So your first impression from a non-verbal perspective actually comes from the way that you look. And a lot of people might say, oh, this is so shallow, and it is quite frustrating as well, because unfortunately this is the way how things work right now, and because we live in such a visual world, and a lot of the times we are bombarded with all these visuals, and also because we are very fast-paced. We're living in a fast-paced society. So when we look at someone, is very, very unavoidable, and then we can't prevent that, they will immediately form an impression of the person, right? Like how? Well, the reason is because, who we are, in fact, is actually a brand, right? So what is a brand? Now, in the olden times, the brand is a type of ownership, right? But in modern times right now, a brand is actually a perceived emotional image, which is something that you actually project out to the world and how you want people to actually perceive you. Let's say, for example, okay, a brand is kind of an identity from a corporate perspective. So these are all the famous brands that we are in touch with on a day-to-day basis. And in quite a number of them, as you can see from the screen here, they are, in fact, very much, they're very much, part of our lives, right? And as you can see, all of these brands have an identity. And the identity is also tagged very much to the corporate color. So my next question to you is, what is your brand and what is your brand identity? As a business owner, as a working executive, as a person who actually going through life, how do you want people to perceive you, and what kind of message are you conveying on a non-verbal scale? Okay, so of course, besides dressing up, there's also a little bit on color psychology. It's how you use color to convey the message through the way that you dress. Now, for example, red. It is actually, it signifies excitement, strength, love, and energy. Today, I'm wearing actually a pink top, so I want to actually project the image of compassion, sincerity, sophistication, and a little sweet. Now, so as you can see from the next slide, this is actually what I'm trying to say is that, all these colors represent an emotion and a very subtle message that the brands are trying to convey, right? So if you think about all these brands that we see on the screen right now, like Yahoo, for example, it's purple. So, it wants to create and also give this subtle imaging and this subtle messaging of creativity, being imaginative, and being wise. So this is just some information about colors, about how you actually coordinate to use these colors. Basically 12 months of the entire year. But you don't have to actually, to be very frank. This is just a guide in terms of of how you actually do your marketing, for example, or how you actually create a particular brand for your corporate image and even for your personal image. Okay. So let's have a little fun, shall we? Okay, now let's see what kind of impression we will have on this particular person. Okay, now next, would you believe that these two women, they're actually the same person? As you can see from the image on the left, the choice of colors actually kind of like brings the skin tone down, and the choice of the way that she applied the makeup, and the choice of accessories literally actually take the visual away, because on the first picture on the left, she was wearing this very chunky necklace, which is not that complementary to the dress that she's putting on. So she takes the attention away, and it actually doesn't look that elegant. And then on the second image, she has actually lighter makeup, and then she actually uses accessories to actually accentuate the attention towards her face. She actually bring attention towards her face with elegant earrings. So as you can see, if you know how to actually create your brand, if you know how to communicate, right? If you know how to communicate by using colors, also using the way that the things that you actually put on yourself, the accessories, and as well as clothing, you are able to actually to communicate very effectively, so that you can actually even turn from crass looking to sophisticated. Okay, so this is actually the end of what I'm going to be presenting to you on the slides. So as you can see, there's actually a huge difference with regards to verbal and non-verbal communication. Uh, let's answer some questions. Hello, Jasmine. Yes, our topics are actually very, very similar. And also, in fact, very, 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 our topics are so familiar. Yes, it is actually quite familiar. And also the thing is that, when it comes to communicating, there is actually no boundaries. And so I would be very, very happy to actually communicate more with you on this. And maybe we can do something together, Jasmine. Yeah. Hello, Janet. So pleased and thank you for joining me here on this Facebook Live on communication. So what I've just shown all of you is just a small little bit of what I do on visual communication. But most importantly is, besides, the verbal communication and also the non-verbal, how we actually project ourselves to the world, there is another form of communication, which is the communication of our internal self. Is how do we communicate with ourselves? And a lot of the times, our communication are actually going out one way. Like verbally, we go out and then we talk to somebody. We talk to the people that we work with, the people that we um, where we have in our lives, our family, our loved ones, and we're telling them something, and we're hoping that they're able to understand, and we're communicating this way on a verbal basis. But a lot of people actually forget the fact that we are also telling ourselves something as well as the days go by. On daily living, we have to actually watch what are the things that we are saying to ourselves, because from a lot of my conversations with in the work that I do, a lot of women, will actually subconsciously tell themselves that they're not good enough. And are you one of them? I do in the past. Just for example, when you wake up in the morning and you look at yourself in the mirror, what do you say to yourself? Do you go like, oh my God, my dark eye rings. Oh, I wish that my skin is a bit more supple, Or for some women, look at our body and say, oh, I wish I can have maybe bigger breasts, or I can have smaller tummy, So it's actually a negative way of communicating with ourselves that we do not realize, right? And then sometimes, we will say things like, oh, maybe I look at this other person who's actually very hard at work, a fellow colleague. Maybe I will never be able to get to where she is. Or we look at someone on the street who has spent a lot of time working out and getting the body that she wants. And you look at her and say, oh yeah, I love food too much. Maybe I will not be able to look that way. Do we catch ourselves saying things like this? And that's actually very important. And what I want to bring it out to your attention is how we communicate with ourselves. What we say to ourselves actually becomes our inner voice. And when it becomes our inner voice, that's actually what we think about. And we ended up going down to a downward spiral and also being absorbed with this negativity. And when we get into this negativity, we will actually, unfortunately, start to self-sabotage. Because how the brain function is, the brain is always looking for an answer to fill the gap. When we have a question, when we say, oh, I can't do this, the brain will actually automatically create an opportunity or an action for us to prove ourselves right. So if we were to tell ourselves that, you know what, I am not never going to be losing weight, I probably won't look as pretty anymore. Or the very common one is like, I'm old already. I can't learn new things. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Then you're actually putting yourself down, and then you are actually having this self-fulfilling prophecy. So one of the things that I want to share with you today is be a bit more aware in terms of the things and what we say to ourselves. Can we look at ourselves in the mirror and then say, I am beautiful. I am worthy. A lot of the times when I ask a woman, do you feel beautiful? Then they're like, okay lah. Will actually be the answer that comes back to the question. Well, why can't we be both beautiful and at the same time feel happy about it rather than trying to feel a little bit very awkward about it, right? And also another thing on communication is very important as well is actually how we relate ourselves to people around us. The best way of communicating isn't through our words. The best way of communicating is actually through our actions, what we do, because action really speaks louder than words. When you say a certain thing to someone, when you say, I love you to your family, we don't just say it, we actually show it through our actions. Yes? And this is how we communicate. And another best way of doing on communicating would be to listen. When we come to communicating, a lot of the times we are talking about using the right words, using using visuals, and using example and using stories to describe. And these are all the good way of communicating, by putting it out there. But communication is actually a two-way traffic. When we are communicating with the people around us, we are also receiving their message. And a lot of the times we are not listening. Because when we are not listening, we are not receiving that message, then we are unable to respond in accordance to the message. And a lot of the times when we are, sometimes, because of emotions, we have selective hearing, that we only pick out a certain words. And unfortunately, sometimes it happens when we pick out certain words, and then it get kind of being misconstrued in our minds, and then what we think about is actually to attack back or to give a response very quickly. Then we are not communicating effectively. Being reactive and then being allowing our emotions and our thoughts to actually get the better of us. So what I would like to share for today is when it comes to communicating, okay, is just being able to listen. And if you do understand, there is always an opportunity to actually talk to the other person and say, can you just explain this to me? Can you just explain this to me? How am I getting this wrong? Is this what you are saying? And then if you are feeling some anger building up, especially when we're having different objectives, or rather different school of thoughts, and we try to come to a consensus, to come to a compromise, then it's always a bit hard to have our emotions under control. However, there is no harm by asking the question, don't you think? So just hoping that I can actually receive some comments. If you have any comments, if you have any questions with regards to what I've shared earlier. I know today I do have to apologize. I'm actually not feeling 100%. I was contemplating, should I come on, should I not? But then, since I've made a commitment to myself, and I want to be able to share this bit, and I'm also to thank every one of you coming on to the show on a weekly basis to listen and to hang out with me. So this is here I am, sharing with you about communication. But the things like the communication bit, it's just so broad and so big. And I would really want to share, but it's not possible to be able to share with you on a small time frame. And how we communicate with ourselves actually has got a lot to do with past emotions, with past experiences as well. So all of this actually adds up, and all of this can actually help us, or actually bring us down to the pit. So, and that's actually why I love what I do, because there are women who actually come to me and then share with me some of their experiences and some of their stories. I was able to have an open communication and an open conversation about the way how they communicate with themselves, and then being able to understand where that comes from, and then how we are able to actually switch that, so that they are able to understand how to communicate with themselves internally. And then that was actually in one of the ways to actually build their confidence. Because to be very frank, when I first started out as an image coach, I thought by being able to look good, it's a way of feeling good, and then that way, a woman can actually go out and take on the world. At that point in time, at that point in time, it felt really, really right. It felt that this is actually one of the way. And then over a period of time, I realized that to me, some of it might actually seem a little shallow. However, it is the easiest way for us women to change, and then to make an improvement so that we are able to actually switch our mind to feel good about ourselves. And it's also the easiest way for someone to be able to receive the message that we're trying to say, right? Through the way how we present ourselves um, in a non-verbal way, as I shared with you earlier on the slides. The percentage is actually non-verbal communication. And one particular client that really, really struck me at that time was she came to me and say, I want to actually look more demure because I want to attract the right kind of person. I want to attract the marrying type. And that particularly struck me because she didn't need any help externally. She just needed some help internally and in her mindset, because she has always been telling herself that she is always meeting the bad boys. And when you start doing that, and of course, subconsciously, she's being attracted. She's actually sourcing out, subconsciously, she's actually sourcing out and looking out for all those, the bad boy type. And it's actually nothing to do with the way she dresses, but that actually helped to switch her mind, hopefully. And because I didn't have the tools to be able to guide her through the whole process, and that was the reason how I got started as a confidence coach, to actually grow my toolbox to be able to allow women and help to guide them through this whole process of having this internal communication in their heads and in their hearts, and how to actually switch their mindset and transform to feel more confidently, more than just the external, more than the physical, but from the minds and from their hearts. So so this is actually what we'd like to share with you. And anyone, if you'd like to make a comment, do feel free to do so. If you have a question, do feel free to ask me here on Facebook Live, or if you have any questions with regards to visual and non-verbal communication, and also about communicating more effectively and more confidently in public, I would very much love to have a private conversation with you if you are uncomfortable to leave a message here or a comment here on live. So with that, I would like to end my session today, and I hope this is something that is of value to you. So next week, we have a very amazing guest, someone who has actually who has been working hard. She is a non-Singaporean, but has been living here and working here and building a career and a business on her own. And she will be here to share with us, her struggles and her triumph on how she actually built a business from scratch, being a foreigner living in Singapore. And also, being a woman as well, coming to a place that is totally strange and totally new, how she actually went from being new to this country, having no friends and no family, and how she actually built her way up. This is going to be super, super amazing, and I hope to see you here next week, same time at 10 o'clock on Thursday, and at the Rise with Carol Gockel. Thank you so much for spending time with me and hanging out with me on this Thursday. So, all the best to you. Have a wonderful weekend that is coming. So I'll see you soon. Thank you and goodbye.